I still remember the exact moment my life split into before and after. I was standing in the conference room of the tech startup Daniel and I built together. My palms were sweating, but my voice was steady. Our expansion plan focuses on long-term stability, I said. If we rush into 3 markets at once, we'll burn through cash. One of the investors frowned. That sounds cautious. It's strategic, I replied. We need structure before scale. Daniel leaned back in his chair. He didn't look at me. He looked at them. Daniel, another investor said, do you agree with her? There was a pause. A small, cruel pause. He laughed. It wasn't loud, but it was sharp. She worries too much, he said. She's useless without me when it comes to risk. The word useless didn't hit me at first. It floated in the air like a joke. I stared at him. What did you just say? He finally looked at me, but his eyes were cold. Don't make this dramatic. Dramatic. My voice shook. You just called me useless. Lily Grant, his new assistant, shifted beside him. She avoided my eyes. One investor cleared his throat. Are you two aligned or not? Daniel sighed. Look, I built this company from nothing. I know what it needs. I felt my chest tighten. We built this, I said quietly. I was there every night. Every pitch. Every prototype. He didn't deny it. He just shrugged. Support isn't the same as leadership. The room went silent. So that's what I am? I asked. Support. Daniel's jaw tightened. This isn't personal. It feels personal. It's business, he snapped. And right now, you're holding it back. The words cut deeper than useless. One of the investors looked uncomfortable. Maybe we should take a short break. No, Daniel said firmly. We need clarity. And the truth is, I can't move forward with hesitation in the room. I felt like the floor disappeared beneath me. You mean me? He didn't answer directly. Maybe it's better if you step away from operations. Step away. I repeated. Take some time, he said. Figure out what you actually bring to the table. I stared at him, searching for the man who used to hold my hand under this same table. After 5 years, I whispered. This is what I bring. Nothing. His silence was louder than any insult. Lily finally spoke softly. Maybe some distance would help. I looked at her. Are you replacing me? She swallowed. I'm just doing my job. I turned back to Daniel. Say it clearly. Do you want me gone? He met my eyes without blinking. Yes. The word echoed in my head. I nodded slowly. Fine. I gathered my laptop with shaking hands. No one stopped me. No one defended me. As I reached the door, I paused. One day, I said, my voice barely steady, you'll regret saying that. Daniel didn't respond. The elevator doors closed, and the tears finally fell. That was the moment I lost my love, my job, and the person I thought I was. The weeks after were dark and quiet. My new apartment was small, with thin walls and a window that faced another building. I sat on the floor because I hadn't bothered buying a couch yet. Maya Lopez stood in front of me with her hands on her hips. You can't keep sitting here like this. I'm fine, I muttered. You're not fine, she shot back. You lost your job and your boyfriend in one day. Ex-boyfriend, I corrected softly. She sighed and dropped beside me. Why don't you fight back? I let out a hollow laugh. With what? He made it clear I'm useless. She grabbed my shoulders. Do you even hear yourself? You built that company with him. He said I was just support, I whispered. And you believe him? I didn't answer. The silence was my confession. Maya shook her head. You used to walk into rooms like you owned them. That was before, I said. Before I realized maybe he was the real brain. She stared at me like I had insulted her. Are you serious right now? I handled operations, I said weakly. He handled vision. You handled strategy, she corrected. You stayed up all night fixing his reckless ideas. I looked away. If I was that important, he wouldn't have let me go so easily. Or maybe, she said slowly, he let you go because he couldn't stand that you were that important. Her words made my chest tighten, but doubt still whispered louder. Days blurred together. I avoided social media, but one morning I slipped. An article headline flashed across my screen. Carter Tech announces global expansion. My fingers froze. Maya noticed my expression. What? He's expanding, I said quietly. 3 countries. She leaned over to read. That's aggressive. That's my plan, I whispered. What? I proposed controlled expansion last year. He said it was too cautious. My throat burned. Now he's doing it. Maya looked at me carefully. So he listened. No, I said, shaking my head. He erased me. Anger began to replace the emptiness. He stood there and called me useless. And now, she asked. Now he's using my ideas like I never existed. Maya's voice softened. What are you feeling? I surprised myself with the answer. I'm angry. Good. I don't want him to fail, I admitted. But I don't want him to win because of me. She smiled slightly. That's fire. I was waiting for that. I stood up slowly. Maybe I wasn't useless. You weren't. Maybe, I continued, my voice steadier. I was just standing in the wrong shadow. Maya crossed her arms. So step out of it. I looked around the tiny apartment, at the unpacked boxes and blank walls. I don't know how. You start by remembering who you were before him, she said. And then you become even stronger. I took a deep breath. For the first time since the conference room, I didn't feel completely broken. I felt something rebuilding. And it scared me almost as much as the fall. I had 2 choices, stay broken or rebuild. I stared at my phone for almost an hour before dialing Mr. Victor Hale. My hands felt cold. He answered on the 3rd ring. It's been a long time. It has, I said, forcing steadiness into my voice. You sound different, he noted. What happened? I lost my job, I replied. And my relationship. With the same person. Yes. He paused. Start from the beginning. So I did. I told him about the meeting, the word useless, the way Daniel looked at me like I was a liability. I tried to keep my voice calm, but it cracked anyway. When I finished, there was silence. Do you believe you're useless? He asked finally. The question hit harder than Daniel's insult. I don't know. That's not what I asked, he said gently. Do you believe it? I closed my eyes. I thought about the late nights, the spreadsheets, the strategy decks I built from nothing. No, I whispered. I don't. Say it like you mean it. No, I repeated, louder. I'm not useless. Good, he said. Because I never taught a useless student. I let out a shaky breath. Then why does it feel like I failed? Because you attached your worth to someone who felt threatened by it. I swallowed. You think he was threatened? I think insecure people cut down what they can't control. His words settled into me slowly. So what do I do now? I asked. You work, he replied. You rebuild your confidence through action, not emotion. I don't have a company anymore. You don't need one, he said. I have a junior strategy opening at my consulting firm. I blinked. Junior? Yes. You learn your position again. Part of me felt insulted. You don't trust my experience. I trust it, he said calmly. But you don't. This will remind you. I hesitated. It's not glamorous. Neither is growth. I laughed softly for the first time in weeks. When would I start? Monday, he said. If you're serious. I am. One more thing, he added. You will not talk about your ex in my office. Why? Because from now on, your success will not be about proving him wrong. It will be about proving yourself right. His words stayed with me long after the call ended. That night, I stood by my small apartment window and looked at the city lights. I'm not useless, I said out loud. The room didn't answer, but I felt stronger. I made a quiet promise to myself. I would never let anyone define my worth again. Not Daniel. Not failure. Not fear. This time, I would rise because I chose to, not because someone pushed me down. And that choice felt powerful. Work became my therapy. On my first day at the consulting firm, I walked into the conference room with a notebook pressed to my chest. Victor looked at me, ready to start from the ground up. I said. Good. Then speak only when you have value to add. The words didn't offend me. They challenged me. Weeks passed in a blur of research, data sheets, and late nights. I stopped checking Daniel's social media. I stopped replaying that conference room scene in my head. One evening, I was still at my desk when someone cleared his throat. You're aware it's almost midnight, right? I looked up. Deadlines don't care about time. He smiled slightly. Fair point. I'm Adrian Blake, financial analyst. I know, I said. You flagged the risk margin error in the Hansen file. His eyebrow lifted. You noticed that? I notice everything. He pulled a chair across from me. What are you working on? Market entry risk for a retail client, I replied. Their numbers look strong, but their logistics chain is fragile. He leaned forward. Most people would just celebrate the numbers. Most people don't think 3 steps ahead. He studied me for a second. You do. I felt something warm in my chest. I have to. Why? Because if I don't, things collapse. He didn't push further. He just nodded. Show me. I walked him through my projections. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said quietly, you think 3 steps ahead. The words stayed with me long after he left. Months later, Victor called me into his office. We have a crisis. What kind? A manufacturing client. They're about to expand too fast. My stomach tightened. How fast? 3 plants in 6 months. That's reckless, I said instantly. Convince them. I flew out the next morning. In the boardroom, the CEO crossed his arms. Why should we slow down when demand is high? Because demand without structure turns into disaster, I replied. Your supply chain can't support this pace. He frowned. We'll manage. No, I said firmly. You'll lose millions. The room went quiet. After 2 hours of debate, they agreed to restructure instead of rush. 3 months later, the CEO called me. You saved us. How much? I asked. 8 million. When I hung up, my hands trembled, not from fear, but pride. Back at the office, Adrian leaned against my desk. Heard you pulled off a miracle. It wasn't a miracle, I said. It was logic. He smiled. You're rebuilding fast. I never stopped knowing what I could do, I admitted. I just forgot. He nodded like he understood. That night, as I packed up, I overheard 2 colleagues whispering. Have you heard about Carter Tech? I froze. What about it? The other asked. Internal management issues. Investors are nervous. And that assistant, Lily Grant, she's practically running decisions now. My chest tightened. Adrian looked at me. You okay? I'm fine, I said quickly. But something about Lily making decisions felt wrong. Not because I wanted Daniel back, but because I knew exactly how fragile reckless leadership could be. And this time, I wasn't there to stop it. 3 years passed faster than I expected. One morning, Adrian dropped a financial report on my desk. Have you seen this? I glanced at the headline. Carter Tech loses 2 major investors amid strategic concerns. My fingers tightened around the paper. So it begins. He studied my face. You okay? I'm not fragile anymore, I said calmly. What happened? Overexpansion, he replied. Cash flow strain. Poor risk analysis. I almost laughed. Risk analysis used to be my job. Later that week, I had lunch with an old industry contact. She leaned closer and lowered her voice. Off the record. Always, I said. Lily Grant is pushing every major decision. Based on what? I asked. Speed. Image. Aggressive growth. And research. She gave me a look. Minimal. I stirred my coffee slowly. And Daniel? He trusts her completely. A familiar ache touched my chest, but it wasn't heartbreak. It was recognition. He used to trust me like that, I murmured. Maybe that's the problem, she said. He trusts confidence, not caution. I left the cafe feeling steady, not shaken. The empire he built without me was cracking in the exact places I used to protect. A month later, I attended a high-profile business gala. Victor insisted. You belong in rooms like this, he said. The ballroom was bright and loud. I was reviewing notes on my phone when I felt it, that strange awareness of being watched. I looked up. Daniel stood across the room. For a second, the years disappeared. Then I noticed the tension in his jaw, the faint lines on his forehead. He walked toward me slowly. I didn't expect to see you here. I get invited now, I replied. He glanced at my name badge, at the title under it. His eyes flickered. Senior Strategy Director. I worked, I said simply. You look different, he admitted. I held his gaze. I grew. He let out a quiet breath. You always were ambitious. No, I corrected. I was always capable. Music filled the silence between us. I heard you've been doing well, he said carefully. I have. He hesitated. Carter Tech is going through temporary adjustments. I read the reports, I replied. His eyes sharpened. So you're following our progress. I follow the market, I said evenly. You're part of it. For the first time, he didn't look certain of himself. You could have stayed, he said quietly. And kept shrinking. I asked. He didn't answer. People began greeting me, shaking my hand, asking for meetings. Daniel stood there while they spoke to me about projections and partnerships. After the third interruption, he stepped back. You've built something, he said. Yes, I replied. I built myself. He gave a small nod, but I saw something in his expression, doubt. As he walked away, I realized something powerful. 3 years ago, I left a room feeling small. Tonight, I stood in a room where he was no longer the center. For the first time, he wasn't the powerful one here. I was. Adrian closed my office door behind him. His expression was serious. What's wrong? I asked. He placed a folder on my desk. Carter Tech is bleeding cash. I kept my face neutral. Define bleeding. 2 quarters from bankruptcy if nothing changes. The words settled slowly. That fast? They over-leveraged, he said. Expansion loans. Declining investor confidence. I leaned back in my chair. And Daniel? Trying to stabilize. But suppliers are nervous. I folded my hands. Why are you telling me this? He held my gaze. Because there's an opportunity. I felt my pulse quicken. What kind of opportunity? A silent acquisition, he said carefully. Through a holding group. I stared at him. You're serious? Completely. The company that threw me out, I whispered. I know. Silence stretched between us. You'd have majority control, he continued. Restructure. Replace leadership if necessary. Replace him, I said softly. Adrian didn't flinch. If you choose. I stood and walked to the window. My reflection looked calm, but inside, everything churned. Is this revenge? I asked. It could be, he replied. Or it could be strategy. I turned back. Do you think I'm capable of separating the two? He stepped closer. I think you're capable of anything when you're clear about your intention. My intention, I repeated. You built your reputation on smart decisions, he said. This would be one. I crossed my arms. It feels personal. It is personal, he admitted. But that doesn't make it wrong. I shook my head. Buying it just to watch him fall, that would make me know better. Then don't buy it for that reason, he said simply. I studied him. Why are you supporting this? Because you deserve ownership of what you helped create, he answered. And because the company will collapse without disciplined leadership. I let out a slow breath. So I either watch it die or step in. Yes. That night, I barely slept. I lay in the dark replaying everything. Useless without me. The words echoed, but they didn't cut the same way anymore. The next morning, I called Maya. If I buy Carter Tech, what does that make me? Powerful, she replied instantly. What if people think I'm bitter? Let them, she said. You know why you're doing it. Do I? Are you trying to hurt him? I paused. No. Then what are you trying to do? Prove I was never the weak link, I whispered. Then that's your answer. By afternoon, I walked back into Adrian's office. I'll do it, I said. He searched my face. Are you sure? Yes. For revenge? No, I replied firmly. For restoration. He nodded slowly. Then we moved quietly. As he began outlining the steps, I felt steady. Not angry. Not desperate. Focused. I wasn't buying Carter Tech to destroy it. I was buying it because I could. And because I was never useless. I was underestimated. The acquisition process was quiet but precise. Adrian sat across from me in a private meeting room. The holding group is ready. Investors trust your record. They trust numbers, I replied. They trust you, he corrected. I signed another document. Does Daniel suspect anything? Not yet, he said. He thinks it's an external firm. I nodded. Good. Weeks passed in confidential calls and sealed agreements. Every signature felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. One evening Adrian looked at me carefully. Final board approval is tomorrow. At their headquarters. I asked. Yes. I held his gaze. He'll be there. He will. The next morning, I stood outside the building I once walked out of in tears. My reflection in the glass looked calm. Ready? Adrian asked beside me. I've been ready for 3 years, I replied. We entered the boardroom together. The same long table. The same chairs. Different energy. Daniel was speaking when I walked in. And once the acquisition finalizes, we can. He stopped mid-sentence. His eyes locked onto mine. For a second, no one moved. One of the board members cleared his throat. Ah, the representative from the holding group. I stepped forward. Good morning. Daniel's voice was tight. You're representing them. In a way, I said. The lead investor gestured to a chair at the head of the table. Please, have a seat. I sat down slowly. Papers were placed in front of me. Daniel stared. What is this? The investor adjusted his glasses. The majority shares have been transferred. Daniel frowned. Transferred to who? I folded my hands on the table. To me. The silence was absolute. His face drained of color. You? Yes, I said steadily. The useless girl. A sharp breath escaped someone near the window. Daniel shook his head. That's not possible. It is, I replied. 71% controlling interest. He looked around the room. You knew about this. The investors avoided his eyes. This is a strategic rescue, one of them said carefully. We believe in stable leadership. Daniel's gaze snapped back to me. So this was your plan? My plan? I repeated calmly. No. This is the result of yours. His jaw tightened. You're doing this out of spite. If I wanted spite, I said, leaning slightly forward, I would have waited for bankruptcy. The room remained silent. I opened the folder in front of me. Effective immediately, I am appointing interim restructuring measures. You can't just walk in and take over, he said. I just did. His voice dropped. After everything we built. I helped build it, I corrected. You asked me to leave. Daniel stood up abruptly. This is unbelievable. I met his eyes without flinching. No. This is accountability. He slowly sat back down. For the first time since I met him, he looked unsure. The board members began asking me questions about cash flow, supplier renegotiations, operational audits. I answered each one calmly. Daniel didn't interrupt again. As the meeting ended, I gathered my papers. 3 years ago, I left this room feeling erased. Today, I walked out knowing something had shifted. For the first time, I had control. Daniel asked to see me privately the next morning. I didn't refuse. He closed my new office door behind him. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. We need to talk, he said. We are talking. He exhaled sharply. This doesn't have to be a war. It isn't, I replied calmly. It's restructuring. We can work together again, he said quickly. Like before. I studied his face. I searched for warmth, for regret, for love. What I saw instead was fear. Like before. I repeated. Yes. You handle strategy. I handle vision. We were good together. We were unbalanced, I corrected. His jaw tightened. You're angry. No, I said honestly. I'm clear. He stepped closer to my desk. You don't have to push me out. I haven't, I replied. Your numbers did. He ran a hand through his hair. Investors panic. That's normal. Misused funds aren't normal. His eyes flickered. What do you mean? I opened the audit file in front of me. I reviewed the expansion accounts last night. And millions were redirected without full board approval. His voice hardened. Those were executive decisions. Based on whose analysis? Silence. Lily's. I asked quietly. He didn't answer. I requested internal reports, I continued. Aggressive acquisitions. Inflated projections. No contingency plans. She believed in fast growth, he said defensively. Belief isn't strategy. He looked away. Did you verify her numbers? I pressed. I trusted her. The words hung between us. You trusted her blindly, I said softly. The way you once trusted me. His expression cracked for a second. That's different, he muttered. No, I replied. It's exactly the same. Except I checked the risks. Later that afternoon, I called Lily into my office. She sat stiffly. Is this about the audit? Yes. I followed Daniel's directives. You pushed the pace, I said evenly. You signed off on projections without risk buffers. We needed investor excitement. And now we have investor lawsuits. Her face paled. Are you firing me? I'm initiating a formal investigation. She swallowed. I'll resign. That's your choice, I said. She stood up quickly. You think you've won. This isn't about winning, I replied. When she left, the hallway buzzed with whispers. By the end of the week, articles began circulating. Leadership failure. Reckless expansion. Weak oversight. Daniel stormed into my office again. You leaked this. I didn't have to, I said calmly. The numbers speak. You're destroying my reputation. I'm protecting the company. He stared at me, anger mixing with panic. You wanted this. I wanted stability. Investors began requesting meetings with me directly. They stopped copying him on emails. I watched the shift happen slowly, like a tide pulling away. One evening, Daniel stood at the window of the boardroom. They don't trust me anymore, he said quietly. Trust. The word felt familiar. I folded my arms. Trust is built on accountability. He didn't argue. As I walked back to my office, I expected satisfaction. I expected victory. Instead, I felt something heavier. Watching his pride collapse wasn't sweet. It was sobering. Revenge, I realized, doesn't taste like triumph. It tastes like truth. Daniel asked me to stay after the board meeting. 5 minutes, he said quietly. I hesitated, then nodded. 5. The room emptied until it was just us and the long table between us. He didn't sit at the head this time. He sat across from me. I owe you the truth, he began. I folded my hands. Then say it clearly. He stared at the table for a moment. Back then, I wasn't as confident as I looked. I waited. When investors praised your strategies, it bothered me, he admitted. Bothered you? I repeated. I built the company, he said. But you stabilized it. You saw risks I didn't. That's called partnership. It felt like competition, he whispered. His words stunned me into silence. You were smarter than me, he continued. At least in the ways that mattered long term. I shook my head slowly. So you called me useless. I pushed you away because I was afraid, he said. Afraid that one day they'd realize they needed you more than me. The confession landed heavier than any insult. All those nights, I said quietly, I thought I wasn't enough. He closed his eyes briefly. You were more than enough. That was the problem. Anger flickered inside me. You humiliated me to protect your ego. I know. You erased my work. I know. I leaned back, studying him. Do you understand what that did to me? I do now, he replied. When the investors stopped trusting me, I finally understood what I destroyed. I let out a slow breath. You could have talked to me. I didn't know how, he said. Pride is loud. Insecurity is louder. For a moment, I saw it. The young man who used to share takeout with me on the office floor, dreaming about the future. I loved you, I said softly. His voice broke slightly. I loved you too. Love doesn't sound like useless, I replied. He flinched. I replayed that word for years, I continued. I doubted every decision. I was wrong, he said. I was threatened. I searched his face for manipulation, for strategy. I found regret. Why tell me this now? I asked. Because you deserve to know it was never about your ability, he said. It was about my fear. Silence settled between us. Part of me felt relief. The narrative in my head shifted. I wasn't discarded because I lacked value. I was discarded because he lacked courage. You hurt yourself more than you hurt me, I said finally. I know. I stood up slowly. I forgive the fear. His eyes lifted. But I don't accept the disrespect, I finished. He swallowed. For a moment, I admitted, I almost saw us again. He didn't speak. But love without respect is poison, I said steadily. And I already survived it once. I walked toward the door. Is there any chance? He asked quietly. I paused, but I didn't turn around. I don't build my life around fear anymore, I replied. Then I left him alone with his truth. Maya sat across from me in my office, sipping tea slowly. You look tired. I'm thinking, I said. About Daniel. And about everything. She nodded. What's the decision? I leaned back in my chair. I can fire him. You could, she agreed. Or I can let him stay under strict conditions. She studied me. What do you want? That's the problem, I said. I don't want revenge anymore. She smiled slightly. That's growth. I don't want him controlling decisions, I continued. But removing him completely feels excessive. Why? Because I'm not the girl who was thrown out anymore. She leaned forward. Then choose like the woman you are now. I called Daniel that afternoon. He answered quickly. Hello. Meet me in the boardroom, I said. Is this about termination? He asked. Just come. When he arrived, he looked nervous. You could fire me today. I could, I said. He waited. I won't, I continued. His shoulders relaxed slightly. Why? Because I don't need you gone to prove I'm strong. He stared at me. So what are the terms? You stay, I said. But you are a minority consultant. No operational authority. No executive voting rights. He nodded slowly. I expected worse. I know, I said. That's what I used to think strength looked like. He swallowed. You're not doing this out of mercy, are you? No, I replied. This is business. He nodded. Fair. You will report financial suggestions only, I added. Nothing direct to investors. Understood. And no emotional negotiations, I said. He gave a small, sad smile. You learned from me. I learned from everything, I corrected. Silence filled the room for a moment. You really changed, he said quietly. I had to, I replied. He looked down at his hands. Do you hate me? I shook my head. I don't have space for hate. Do you forgive me? I forgave the fear, I said. Not the actions. He nodded, accepting that. After he left, Maya came in without knocking. You didn't fire him. No. Why not? I looked out the window. Because revenge keeps you tied to the person who hurt you. She smiled. So what does this make you? I don't know yet, I said. She crossed her arms. You do know. I turned back to her slowly. I'm not the broken girl in the elevator. No, she said. You never were. I'm the woman who rebuilt herself from nothing, I said quietly. She raised her teacup. To you. I raised mine back. That night, I stayed late in my office, reviewing strategy plans. My phone lit up with a message from Daniel. Thank you for not destroying me. I typed slowly. I didn't rebuild myself to destroy you. Then I turned off my phone. I felt lighter. Not victorious. Just free. The morning sun filtered through my office windows as I reviewed the final rebranding proposals. Adrian leaned against the desk. It's impressive how far you've taken this. I've done what I should have done years ago, I said. Ethical practices, transparency, accountability. He nodded. Employees are starting to trust management again. I smiled slightly. It wasn't just numbers. It's culture. He glanced at me. And your leadership. I shrugged. Leadership isn't about power. It's about responsibility. The boardroom buzzed as the team prepared for the quarterly report presentation. I glanced at the slides, profits, market growth, employee satisfaction. Everything improved. Ready? Adrian asked quietly. I nodded. Let's do this. When the room filled, I walked to the front. Good morning, everyone, I began. Faces turned to me. Some were skeptical. Some were curious. Most were hopeful. Today, we close a chapter, I said. And open a new one. Our focus isn't just expansion, it's sustainability, ethics, and collaboration. Applause followed, but I ignored it, scanning the room instead. And there he was. Daniel. Quietly standing at the back, observing. I took a deep breath. Quarterly profits increased by 25%, with record employee retention and client satisfaction. I watched as the numbers flashed across the screen. Adrian's hand brushed my shoulder. Look at them. I did. Employees nodded, whispered among themselves, some even smiled at me. Daniel's eyes shifted. I caught a flicker of disbelief, maybe even admiration. After the presentation, he approached. I didn't expect this. You didn't expect what? I asked calmly. You turned it around. The company, the culture, everything, he said slowly. I folded my hands. I didn't turn it around for anyone. I did it because it was necessary. He looked down. It should have been me. You had your chance, I said. I was the one who stayed and rebuilt. He ran a hand over his face. I see that now. I hope you do, I replied. Not because I need recognition, but so you understand what it takes to lead responsibly. He nodded, quietly conceding. I stepped away from the podium. Adrian caught my gaze. You did it, he said softly. I did, I whispered. And I did it honestly. Outside, employees discussed strategies, shared ideas, laughed even. For the first time, I felt the weight lift completely. Not prideful or vengeful. Just satisfaction. Later, Daniel lingered by the exit. The company, it thrives under your vision. I paused. It always could have. I just made it happen. He didn't argue. I turned to my team. We're just getting started, I said. Adrian squeezed my hand. Healthy partnership, he murmured. I smiled. Exactly. As the day ended, I walked through the office. Employees greeted me warmly. Meetings were productive. Energy was high. Carter Tech, the company he loved, no longer belonged to his pride. It thrived under my vision. And I didn't need anyone's approval to know it. I stood in my office window, watching the city lights flicker like quiet promises. Adrian walked in without knocking. You're still here. I like the view, I said. He stood beside me, thinking about everything. Years ago, I said, one sentence destroyed me. He didn't ask which sentence. He already knew. You were never useless, he said softly. I know that now, I replied. He smiled slightly. Say it out loud. I inhaled slowly. I was never useless. I was just underestimated. He nodded. That's better. We stood in silence for a moment. Daniel left the company last month, Adrian said. I know. He's starting over somewhere else. Do you think he's happy? I asked. He's learning, Adrian replied. Same as everyone else. I turned from the window. I don't feel hatred anymore. Good, he said. Hatred keeps you connected to the past. I don't want that, I said. I want forward. He studied me. You built something strong. I built myself, I corrected. He smiled. You always were stronger than you believed. I was just surrounded by people who benefited from me doubting myself. He didn't argue. Later that evening, I received a message from Daniel. Can we talk? I stared at the screen. Maya walked into my office. You look serious. Daniel wants to talk. What will you say? I don't know yet. She crossed her arms. Do you feel anything when you see his name? I thought about it. No anger, I said. Just distance. Good, she said. That means you healed. I replied to the message. We can talk. Public place. Coffee shop near the old campus. He agreed quickly. When I arrived, he was already there. He looked older. Tired in a different way. You look peaceful, he said. I am, I replied. He stirred his coffee. I wanted to apologize properly. You already did, I said. No, he said. Not enough. He looked at me carefully. You built something amazing. I did, I said. And I regret how I treated you. I accept the apology, I said calmly. But I don't need it anymore. He nodded slowly. You really moved on. I didn't move on by forgetting, I said. I moved on by becoming someone stronger than my past. He swallowed. Are you happy? I thought about it. Yes, I said. Not because of success. Because I know my worth now. He smiled sadly. I wish I had understood that sooner. Me too, I said gently. I stood up to leave. One question, he said quickly. I turned back. Was I ever good for you? He asked. I smiled slightly. Once. But good isn't enough without respect. He nodded. Outside, the night air felt lighter. Adrian called me. Dinner. Sure, I said. As I walked away from the cafe, I realized something powerful. I didn't win by destroying him. I didn't win by proving him wrong. I won by proving myself right. And that was the greatest victory of all.